Three, two, one, live.
You're now watching two old farts making noises.
Joe, do you want to know why some businesses succeed and some businesses fail? Why some businesses grow and some businesses don't? That's what this show is all about. Business, business, business.
Hello,
Dude,
everyone.
I love that music. Are you kidding?
That's
It's like
great.
playing the air drums. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. Well, welcome everyone to the Lost Dollar Business Club. I'm your host, Michael Maturo, with our regular guests, Stephen and David Oldfart.
Good day to you. Good day. Good day.
Good to
Hello,
see you.
Stephen.
Good to
How are
see
you
How you
today?
doing?
Everybody okay?
Michael, you doing well? Michael, you painted the wall.
The colors come out better in the sunlight. We're finally getting light way up here, up north, at this time in the morning.
Nice. You and the polar bears. I like that.
It's the color of money, I think, Michael. Is it not green?
Well, we've got a money tree right behind me. This is the money maker right here.
Yeah.
There you go. That's what we like to hear.
Gotta
Well,
have
today
plans
I
for the
understand
office.
we're going to talk about some fascinating topics for you people that are listening. We're going to talk about three different topics.
Yep.
One's going to be ESG. Michael will tell you what that means in a minute. One's going to be AI to continue our discussion from last week because we really didn't get, I guess, fully immersed into AI. And then the other is going to be cybersecurity, especially when we keep talking about remote work and remote this and remote that. So cybersecurity and cyber threats and cyber this and cyber that. And cyber sex, probably, who knows? Anyway, but we're going to talk about all of that because that's a business, and see what we can unwrap today. So, Michael, it's all you, my friend.
Yeah, well, I mean, ESG. So, I mean, in short, environmental, social, and governance investment objectives. So, ESG, the idea that companies should think beyond profit and they should think about their environmental impact, their social impact, and how they govern themselves as an organization beyond just profit motive, which actually has proven that the funds themselves, people who are focused on ESG, they actually don't perform very well financially, statistically, but also do they even really achieve the goals they set out to do? And should companies even be focused on things like social justice and as it pertains to what's sometimes trendy and what's not in what's out there in the social conversation? So where do you draw the line? Because there is I think companies do need to have some sense of the ecosystem they play in. I mean, it does make sense that the initial thought around it was companies need to think about, and it's a controversial term, stakeholder capitalism, which comes with its own baggage of is that really the way we should be thinking? But the idea that a company operates inside of an ecosystem with lots of different players, and it needs to be a good player in the community. I can see where it started as that, but I think you both have seen how maybe it gets out of control in some ways. And there's a lot of articles.
Yeah, it's interesting. What do you say? Stakeholder economy? Is that
stakeholder
what you call it?
capitalization?
Capital. Is that just not old-fashioned co-op? You know, have I or is it? Am I not being trendy? Am I not being
formal than stakeholder?
Being trendy enough, I think.
Yeah, that might be. Yeah, the co-op actually, the co-op model. A friend of mine does one of those, and the co-op model is actually very strictly structured to support the people who are contributing to the co-op. But stakeholder capitalism is I think it's a much looser term actually, and because it's looser, I think that's why it's maybe more risky in terms of the like who's to say who's a stakeholder and who's not. And if somebody's a stakeholder, then what do you do with the people who aren't stakeholders? Are you just totally ignoring them? Are you considering them at all? And who gets to decide who's a stakeholder and who's not, and who should get benefit and who's not? So it becomes a much bigger conversation about who's in and who's out, in my opinion. I don't know what you
Yeah.
guys think.
I know Stephen's going to say something, but I just have a question. Are the stakeholders employees then, a part of the organisation? Is that what I would understand it to be?
That's definitely part of it. But in stakeholder capitalism, people are even talking about private companies need to think about and even influence the communities that they operate in, the other companies that they work with, partner organizations that they might be involved with, and governments themselves, local, state, federal, at all levels of government. So it becomes a very broad aperture from which to think about your profit-seeking motive.
Yeah. Stephen, sorry, I interrupted you. I knew you were going to say something.
That's okay. Here comes the old school stuff. First of all, ESG, the biggest bunch of crap I've ever heard in my entire life. And here's why. First of all, even the SEC.
I was going to say, are you going to define that, Stephen? Are they just throwing it out?
The SEC thinks it's a bunch. No. Even the SEC thinks it's crap, because you're saying, like, if you say you're an ESG, it's like being a B Corp, right? Then you have to prove it, because everyone's like, oh, we're ESG. Oh, the investment bank's like, we do. You're not ESG. Your investment bank is the oldest profession in the world. You're far from it. Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan, even though you tell everybody, still full of bull, in my opinion. ESG is an interesting concept that, unfortunately, we live in this woke society and we all want to do enough. Companies are there to make money. They owe nobody anything except, unfortunately, the shareholders and the stakeholders. And not stakeholder capitalism, but the stakeholders, right? Because at the end of the day, when I write a check, whether I buy stock or I invest in a company, I don't want, unless your company has something to do with, say, sports, and you have to talk about social injustice, like a Nike or an Adidas or somebody, I get it, because you're playing in that field and you have to say something. If you're a car company, you want to clean the world up, great. But if you're just like a paper manufacturer, or you're like the M&M peanut people or something, or a pen company, I don't care. Like, make your product, keep your mouth shut, because really, at the end of the day, I don't think it does anything. It makes the 14-year-olds feel better that this company is woke, if you will, which is the dumb, stupid word that we use. It makes this company feel like they have a social conscience. And really, I don't want to be rude, but I don't care if your company has 10 people or 10 million people. X% don't have a social conscience. You know why they're there? They're there for the paycheck. You know why they're there for the paycheck? To support their family. They could care less. There is a percentage that's going to be like, oh, recycle and clean the planet and yada, yada, yada. And that's good. But I don't really think companies should be like, oh, we're ESG. It doesn't do anything. And what are you going to say? If I'm a big company and I go, Michael, I'm not going to deal with your company anymore because you're not an ESG company, but you make the only widget I need to make my product, right?
It's worse than that, Stephen. It's even worse than that. It's actually saying, I'm not going to invest in you. I'm not going to buy your product. I'm not going to involve myself with you in any way because you disagree with me.
Yep.
And I think that's the bigger problem, is that it actually, the ESG movement tends to be expressed by people cutting out parts of the economy because they don't agree on things that are really subjective and are gray, as opposed to saying, I'm investing in a company because it services its customers, it offers a product and service that's better than anybody else. That's why I'm investing in them. You're blurring the lines of what of really the value system of the economy, which I'm not saying it's perfect. The value system of our economy, which there isn't a value system. It's actually individuals who have values, as opposed to an impersonal organization, let's say.
But this is no difference, if I may, that when, back in the 90s, when churches would get upset because somebody would say something and they're like, we're going to boycott Crest toothpaste because there's an emblem and that's Satan. And stupid people that don't have a brain are going to boycott it. It's the same crap. And it's like, we're going to boycott this soldier, or rap music has bad words, and all these religious people get whatever. And ESG to me is sort of like that kind of a movement as well. It's kind of like you're getting behind something you know nothing about. It's, if you don't want to buy a product, then don't buy it. If you don't want to invest in it, don't invest in it. But if I'm trying to make money as a hedge fund or an investor, or I want the best product for me or my family or for my company, I don't care if you're BP and you're going to pollute the whole world. Okay, but I still need your product. And if they make the best product, I don't want the second best product. And I
So
think people don't understand that.
Stephen,
What do I know?
Has this all come about then because people feel the need that they should work for such a company? Or is it the company pushing those values onto the people who want to work there?
I think it's the 14-year-olds that go to colleges and universities now where they have to have trigger words and they don't want this. And now we're rewriting books because there's the black means a jacket, but we can't call a jacket black anymore. I think it's all these little children that don't have any, pardon my French, balls, and they weren't brought up properly by their parents, and their parents probably weren't brought up properly. And they're all like, you're going to hurt my feel. Listen, I don't want to be rude or anything. We've already passed the tipping point for the 1.5 Celsius where there's no turn back. We did that last year, right? It's nice that we want to save the planet. We should have been saving the planet when Nikola Tesla said free energy, but people were greedy. And guess what? People are still greedy because I hate to tell you, your electric car takes just as much or more energy, to produce and to do all the other crap than a gas car. Right. And the only other thing, the only thing you don't get is some smog. Well, too late. So
are these
to do this? That's it.
That's a little. You can't.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Listen. I'm all for saving everything. I think the ocean should be clean. I don't think there should be air pollution. But when you listen to these CEOs talk, it's like they're giving you the reach around. It's like, oh yeah, we love you. Okay. But then when they go and they have to make money, it's like they don't care about this. They don't care. Let's just go make money. So you can't have it both ways, and that's what I don't think the population.
You think
that's the issue then of these companies, that they want to have it both ways?
Yes,
because here they're trying to say to us, consume our product, consume our service, because we're green, we all drive electric cars, or we go to work on the bicycles, or we're vegan, or whatever the flavor of the month is. But I agree with you. At the end of the day, somebody will come along and say, "Oh, excuse me, I love your morals, but where are the dollars?"
Right.
But it clouds the purpose of what a company is meant to do, which is to provide a product or service better than anybody else, and provide a product or service that's important to the economy. And you blur the line when you start talking about. I mean, of course, there's responsibilities. There's a concept of what a company is responsible to do in its community, but to tie, I mean, the way that it's been executed is consistently about boycotting things or that you disagree with, or I mean, you can always choose not to work for a company. You can choose not to buy from them. You can choose not to work from them. You can choose not to invest in them.
But here's the biggest bunch of crap with all of that. If girls and guys that like bang guns, right? That's the worst ESG in the world, right? Because guns kill people. Actually, bullets kill people, so to speak, and the guy pulling the trigger. But I bet you half of those people, ESG, I can't buy. Stop it. Just stop it. And it's like, I talked to a friend of mine, and to this day, his dad still will not buy anything Japanese or anything German because he was in World War II. And it's very much, boom, I still won't do that. And and I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but that's his belief. And if I want to go buy a Porsche tomorrow, or if I want to go buy a Lexus tomorrow, that's on me, or a Honda Jet, right? That's me. But this ESG is like, we're pushing our beliefs onto I don't care what your belief is. You're a company. You're not a person. You have no soul. Your one job is to produce a widget, whatever the widget is. And the other part of your job as a company, in my opinion, is to produce a profit for who? The shareholders, the stakeholders, the investors, and whatever employee profits, bonuses they get. That's your job. I don't care that you have some social governance and you feel better about yourself, because you don't. Because when the SEC looked at all these companies that said they had it, they said like 90% complete waste of time.
Do it, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't do anything. They just said, look, we're ESG.
Yeah. So, are you allowed to say that then? I mean, in Europe, you're not allowed to say that.
Not anymore.
You have to jump through all sorts of hoops to to get accredited to be
Right.
an official
Well,
green company.
if you're a B Corp, you have to do a whole bunch of stuff to become a B Corp,
Yeah.
right? That's a whole different animal. For an ESG, I think now they've made it like you just can't say we do ESG unless you can really prove it. And I know that the SEC said they'll issue fines to public companies if they can't, prove it and they're just saying it. And I'm like, I agree with that. Like, if you really live up to it, I'm good with that. But the problem is, it's like everything else on the planet. It's all just yap, 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 yap. Show me something. Even the oil companies, like, do something. Just don't tell me about it. So that's where my problem is with it. Like, stop shoving it down my throat. And you know what would be better? If you don't tell me, you do something. And a couple of years from now, you go, you know what we did in 2020? We implemented a program.
Right.
And in 2025, this is what happened. I would be more impressed with that, because you're not trying to get news, press, whatever. You're just trying to make it better. And the problem I have with all these companies is everybody's trying to get the soundbite so their stock goes up, or they get on Bloomberg or CNBC or MSNBC. And that I have a problem with.
I mean, doesn't the interpretation of ESG not? I mean, first of all, it's a lot of the direction also comes out of the World Economic Forum and people who are trying to define what ESG means along several metrics. But the thing is, shouldn't it be? Doesn't it reduce or make it more homogeneous when you're trying to standardize something that is so loose and so soft and so gray? Instead of allowing companies to express themselves in the way that they think is a responsible citizen of the world, or of their country, or of their location.
Well, I can see that's something that we're going to come back to on another show, but we just got to give somebody a pass over now to one of our sponsors.
Get the freedom and the flexibility of remote work in the lucrative tech industry. Bend your life around the world. Bendicoot is the premier course and community for thriving in a remote tech career. Join the revolution today. Bendicoot.com, official partner of the Lost Dollar Business Club.
Very nice. That's crazy. That's crazy. Look at that great ad. Look at the voiceover too.
Great ad.
Nice. So, and look, and Bendicoot's starting a revolution as well.
That's right.
There you go. So everybody wants to have a revolution. Can't we just all get along? Seriously. What's the problem here?
Well, it would appear, Stephen, there's an AI revolution, because we touched upon it very briefly in the last. You like what I'm doing here?
Yeah, well done.
Yeah,
he's right. Because there is a lot going on in the AI space. I just used something called Luma AI, which will if you take a video of something in 3 dimensions, you run around it in circles and just get multiple angles of one object, like I did in my office. AI will actually turn that into a 3D model of whatever it is you just took a video of. And I thought that's very impressive, because now you're seeing at a commercial level the power of AI on video processing and video creation. You can create videos from blog posts, from written content, all using that one. I think is called Steve.ai. So there's a lot of tools.
It should be called Steve.ai, just so we're clear. It should be called Steve.
Yeah, it's Steve. It's Steve. Anyway, so I just brought up Luma AI because it's interesting that there are so many different ways that we're using these neural networks basically to do things that would have been really hard to do before. And I think that's the point, isn't it?
Yeah, I can see the value of the 3D objects, because I had a web shop, and one of the things that I always struggled with was trying to let people see, like a cat, for instance. Steve loves his cats, but if you only get that one photograph from the front,
right?
It could be quite vanilla. But in which case you had to then just take photographs all the way around it and then put it on the little slider, etc., etc. But I love the idea of going around it and then having this film almost like a film that's produced. It gives it certainly for selling things, all sorts of things, really interesting.
Yeah, but let me ask you. So I'm all for AI. We talked about this last week, but I also don't want this to become stupid.
Yeah.
Because people will type things, don't read it. So I still want people to be able to think. And I don't know with AI if people are thinking. I mean, yes, people are thinking. There's a lot of them that are, but you're going to have the ones that aren't. And that's what worries me. It's like we don't need it. Is it what 8 billion people? We've on a couple shows ago we figured on the planet because we called them all and they all checked the list. So there's 8 billion people on this planet. Let's just say 90% of them are idiots. So with the 10% that have a clue, then what? I don't really need 7 billion idiots running around, if you will, or whatever the number is.
But are they the people who are going to pick this up at this stage? Because these are all early adopters. I mean,
I think idiots pick it up because they don't want to work. It's easy stuff to do. It's like, how do I get out of doing X?
I mean, whether you're an idiot or not, to use or abuse technology is your personal choice.
Yeah.
And if you're,
let's take away the work aspect from it then, and say this. What did you call it, Michael? Luminai, was that?
Luma AI. I mean, that's
okay. So I've got that, and I'm one of the 90%. Who can't do my shoelaces up and
tie your shoes.
My knuckles hurt all the time when they grab on when they scrape across the ground. But I found this little bit of AI, and I'm going to just to make 3-dimensional photographs of my children. What's wrong with that?
Okay, nothing. That's okay. Because
there was a Black Mirror episode on that, on the idea of going into virtual reality of your past memories, your digitally captured memories, and now
we're talking about business now, not fantasy. Michael say.
Well, no, but they're doing it now. But now they're actually doing it. No, people, you can actually. There's a technology which it eludes me for the moment, but people are actually creating a technology that will take your past videos and recreate a 3D scene so that you can spend virtual time in that scene, which was a fantastical episode that's now coming true. And I mean that, there's a fine line. Is that valuable to consumers? Is that valuable to people? They want to relive.
Well, there are people who want to revisit their dead relatives, which you can do it in exactly the same way.
Yeah.
So,
and that's the digital twin concept, which is something that I'm sure you guys are aware of, but maybe our listeners aren't. Is the digital?
Well, we're twins.
Digital twin. What's that? Yeah, they know about
separated at birth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in this case, your digital twin is going to be a replica of you, and in a way that can interact with other people or maybe other AI. I mean, it's a weird concept, but I mean, it's starting to happen even in business, where customer support, you're training an AI to be a customer support representative in the voice of the company. So you're training the AI to sound like somebody from the company, saying the things that you want it to say and help you out, help customers do what things that they need to do. I mean, in that own way, it's a version of the digital twin.
Right.
Would you have an issue with that, Stephen? Because for you, I know what you're going to say, but I have a stupid question to ask you. But you're like me. We had this discussion off camera yesterday, I think, about we're old school. It's all about service, and if I get good service, why would I? And it makes me feel valued as a customer. Does it really make any difference if it's done by a virtual entity or by a digital twin?
No, and that's my point. I'm old school to another extent. I embraced it. David knows I have tons of the technology. Like I love playing with it. I think it's great. Right. And so this is all easy stuff. My point is it's just stupid people. Just if they're going to find ways around it, that's great. So I don't care when I know when I call customer service or I'm asking something online, I know it's a bot. I know that I have to talk to a computer for 5 minutes before I can actually get to a human. But if the computer can solve it, I'm happy because that's good customer service. I don't really need to talk to the human. But the problem is we're still far away from that. And where I get annoyed is when the computer asks me redundant questions and I'm like, Bubba, what do you want to do? Bubba,
Hey,
what do you
but
want?
to be honest,
26
Stephen,
you know?
I've spoken to people on the phone in customer services who ask me redundant questions.
Well,
So
that's
it's
their
not,
job,
it's
right?
not, it's, you know, it's not excluded. And I don't mean that in a
That's true.
cynical way either. It's
Yeah.
just the reality of it. They're all scripted out. You know, the
That's
same
true.
people who do telesales. I've been in telesales for many years myself. I love tripping people up.
I just think the population as a whole are just a bunch of drones. Nobody
Yeah, but
thinks for themselves. Nobody
well,
reads. I think that's part.
But
I
is
think
that,
AI
is
for
that,
these people is going to be perfect.
yeah, well, okay. Will
I
that
think it's
solve that?
perfect.
Will it, yeah. Well, maybe what will happen then is that that the general level of stupidity will rise. Or, you know, we had hoped that education would do it, and now it would appear it'll be an app on your phone.
Maybe.
Well, I mean,
Okay.
you make a good point about the education situation, which is if you look at the origins of at least education in the United States, it started because it was meant to create very good people who could work in factories, and that model persisted. And now, if you look at what's happening, especially in Silicon Valley, where there are these alternative schools, even the Khan Academy is kind of a version of that, where you're getting real knowledge and you're really getting people to think. I mean, the silver lining is that there is a big movement of people who want to create thinkers and people who are going to contribute value to society instead of people who are just going to follow whatever the norm is. So it depends on what you look at, isn't it, Stephen? I mean, saying 90% of the world are drones. I mean, I don't know.
95% of the world, not 90. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I give him benefit of the doubt. And
Maybe,
to your point about the Khan Academy,
it's in Stephen's world. That's what we're talking about now.
Well, that's because here's my problem. I think people are stupid, most everybody. And there's a handful of people that, like you guys and a lot of other people that I deal with, I like them because they're smart, they have a brain, they can actually put a thought together. The Khan Academy is very interesting. But if you look at like these alternative schools, you're usually in, if you will, upscale neighborhoods. The Khan Academy is interesting. You have to have a laptop, and I think some of it's free, some of it you pay for.
Yeah.
So once again, it's there's no interaction, so to speak. And I think as we go further down the road, that's going to be a problem. I mean, because people don't know how to interact and people don't know how to do this. Like, I can't have my digital twin go to dinner at a restaurant, right? I have to go to dinner at the restaurant. So at some point,
this is a virtual restaurant, Stephen.
Well, wait, I got you one better. Bruce Willis made a movie, I think 10 or 15 years ago, where he plays a police officer and everybody slides into their avatar and you lay in this bed and you go, it's called, I can't remember the name. I wish I could. Sorry, Bruce. But anyway, you go and you fight crime this way. You go to work this way. You have sex this way. And then they would show the people and they're like overweight people, whatever, right? It was very interesting because that's the way we're getting. We're getting to the point where like, I never have to leave my house because everything's digital or everything is this. And I can send my avatar into the world and I can do that. And it's sort of like, and I'm sure that's wonderful, but I still I want to go outside. I want to go to dinner. I want to press the flesh. And I don't understand these people that just want to sit home and not do that. Maybe that's where I have a problem with it.
I think most people really do want the fulfillment and the real genuine connection that comes from face to face. I think what you're seeing is a push for these technologies by a smaller group of people. But I mean, is the value system shifting where we're actually saying in business and in life that these surrogates is the movie that you're looking for? That these digital surrogates are going to be the way to interact with society. I mean, that's a choice that we as individuals have to make, and there's going to be some sort of balance.
But
I think
this generation, but wait, one second. This generation growing up, the kids now, let's say 15 and under, maybe 18 and under, they don't go out and play. I mean, I'm sure some do, but for the most part, they don't go out and play. They don't read books in school. They give them an iPad. When they come home, what do? They're on the computer. They're watching, whether they're watching whatever on the computer or doing schoolwork. So no, we are creating drones, never to leave.
Are we creating them, Stephen? Because let's be, let's be frank about it. This generation, the generation that you're referring to, are also the generation who lost 2 to 2.5 years of education and social intercourse because they had to stay at home. Everybody's in lockdown, and
Right.
on the one side you see these sort of springs of hope coming up, and think, oh great, because people, they want to go out, they want to do things, cinemas are busy again, restaurants are busy again, so people have found their way back to how it was before. But you've impressed upon a whole generation of people that staying at home and communicating virtually with everything and everyone is okay.
Mm.
No, I don't know about that. I think we were stuck at home because there was a pandemic, and
Yeah, but we have the ability.
But kids still weren't going out though. The pandemic did nothing for that. The kids still weren't going out. They still went to school. They still did this, and I understand they lost this 2-year period, and that I feel bad for them. But at the end of the day, they weren't going out anyway. They were coming home with their laptop or their iPad and doing their schoolwork and playing video games. They're not running around. It's not like they ran around. And here's the other thing. During the pandemic, it was better for you to run around and be outside. Like during the pandemic, I didn't stop running. Right. I went out every morning and I still ran my 10 miles.
Gotta stay.
Didn't care.
Gotta stay fit.
Yeah, you have to stay. And so kids social interaction, they build up your immune system, kids. I mean, this is the whole thing, right? People are drones. They believe what one thing is, or one person tells them, and they're done. No, like parents that did research and like go and do. Like it's okay. Like there's still kids wearing masks, and I'm like, why are you wearing a mask?
Well,
like, I don't get it.
There's still people in Europe that wear masks, and that's a little bit of how it is in Japan and these sort of places.
Well, that's different. When they're sick, they wear.
That's when they
exactly, and that's kind of taken over a little bit here as well. You do see people who wear masks because they, but we know that the biggest con of the whole COVID thing was the mask. I mean,
and the good thing is now you can buy 2 old farts masks. No, I'm just kidding. With our logo on it.
Branded.
Yeah, branded.
I mean, so much money was made by so many people for masks, and what difference did they make? None. Yeah. Zero.
And it's funny. I remember I went to the bank before COVID, and it would say, you have to show your face. You can't wear a hoodie. None of this crap. Right. The minute COVID was, it says masks are acceptable, and literally you go in with a mask, a hoodie, and sunglasses, and they're like, "Oh, hi, how are you?" Right. 3 months earlier, if you went in with that, they'd push the silent alarm, and I'm just like, "So what? This is what's changed." And it's sort of like I remember my doctor. We were talking, and I said there was just an article in the Financial Times that said that smoking. I'm not advocating it. I smoke cigars. That's my thing. But there's something in the pure tobacco, once again, not cigarettes, but a cigar, that apparently coat your lungs that makes you, for this thing, made it better. And I was like, between that and running and scotch, I figured I got nothing to lose. I wore my mask like everybody else. Right. I did what I was supposed to. But the minute they said no masks, I'm like, you know what? Good. And I remember in the beginning of it, I think, since it was an airborne disease, I think everybody got COVID. I truly believe everybody got it. I think the severity of you got it was depending on your weight, your genes from your family pool and whatnot. So I think everybody got it. It's just however you fought it. I got all 57 shots like I was supposed to. And it's sort of like, okay, it's like when I was a kid, you got your smallpox at school. It's the same thing. Now we should go back to not the way it was, but the way it was. Like kids should be outside playing and doing.
Some people don't know the way it was, and
that's true.
And of course the other thing is that would we have had the COVID vaccines without AI? Just
without some sort of technology to supposedly generate the code required.
I'm not against AI, guys. I'm not against technology at all. What I'm against is people just using it to
use it without shooting ourselves in the foot. That's what I think is what we're really conversing about here. And in the business world, for people who are entering the business world or already in it, you have to be aware of what technologies, what artificial intelligence technologies are available in your industry, because each industry is having, in the medical field, for example, they're using AI to diagnose patients even more accurately or more readily, especially in complex cases, than a human doctor could do, because they're able to process way more variables than a human brain could. So,
but see, that I'm okay with. I'm okay with that because that helps.
yeah. So we're looking for technologies that augment.
Yeah.
What
But are they helping? But the argument would be, are they helping clever people or stupid people then, Stephen?
The doctor, I'm figuring if you made it through medical school, you got to have at least like you're like almost in the double-digit IQ. Okay, but so I'm figuring you got to be somewhat smart. But if you can help diagnose somebody, and they've been talking about this for years, and we had a company we were looking at back 2005 that was using a scan like they use in Taiwan to give you a diagnose and then give it to the doctor so the doctor can say, this is the treatment. And I was like, this could work. So if I can, get AI to help save your life because it can predict something 6 months to 5 years sooner than a doctor, right? And running tests that mean nothing, so to speak. And then AI goes, whoa, this isn't good. I'm all for that because that enhances that. But my concern is not for the doctors, because they still have to read and know. They can't be stupid, right? Because if you're stupid, there's a bigger issue. But I'm just talking about the normal person is going to be like, oh, which we talked about last week.
I can write a book report. Copywriting, for example.
Right. I can do a book report. I can do a marketing plan, but there's no thought in it. The computer did it for you.
That's
in medical. I understand it. Yeah. I want people still to think.
They can cheat themselves more strongly with AI than they could with a calculator, which was the example we used last week.
Very true. Yeah. And I agree. I think that's where my concern is with AI is like,
I think it's a fair concern, right? Lots of people
everyone should use it.
I think. Yeah.
If I had a kid, and I mean I have a stepson, but when he has to do stuff, he's like, he doesn't use AI. I've seen the stuff they research for his school, and I'm like, this is a joke just to begin with. But I want, like, they don't go to a library anymore because it's all here. It's I can touch a screen. I have a library. Like I said to him, you know what the Dewey Decimal System is? And he looked at me like I had 3 heads. I'm like, when we were kids, you had to go read a book. You had to go to Encyclopedia Britannica, read a book, and I love it. I'm glad it's online, but I'm in my mind, I'm like, does it really teach them anything? Because you had to go to a library, which means I had to have contact with people.
And you had to think about
social etiquette. Right. So, but online, not so much. You can just search enough times, you'll find anything.
If you like the Lost Dollar Business Club, you should subscribe. If you like it that much, you should also tell a friend of yours. So you should subscribe and like. Also, you should put comments below so we know what you're thinking. Tell us what shows you want to hear. Just help us make it better.
All right.
Look at that segue.
That's the first time I
That's
saw
awesome. Yeah.
Awesome.
I saw that one the first time this morning.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the last little segment of today's show is about, I think we might just have time to touch on it. If not, we're certainly going to come back to it. I think you said at the beginning was
a few minutes on cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Yep.
Staying with the technology. This show won't always be about technology related topics. We can talk about business topics in general, but it is an important one, cybersecurity, because if you look at where I don't know the number of it, but there's a significant portion of cybersecurity breaches are based off of human error as opposed to some firewall that was down or some code update that wasn't done. So it's so important for the first line of defense for an organization, a business organization, especially in the digital world. For the first line of defense needs to be the employee in terms of not giving away your password to people who are asking for it, not giving away sensitive information through what do they call that? Social engineering attacks, when people just call up and try to get information they shouldn't have. Have you guys seen some of the increase? I've certainly seen in my companies, which are tech companies, increase their cybersecurity awareness for average employees. I don't know what you guys have seen out there.
I've seen it, and I remember 10 years ago, 15 years ago, our insurance brokers were all like, you got to get cyber insurance. I remember the first time they said it, I was like, why? And they went through this whole thing and gave me this research to read. And literally the next day, I'm like, we're going to get cyber. So everything we have has cyber insurance because of this. It's just whether when they used to hack a city, I think it was Riviera Beach in Florida, they hacked the city and they said, if you don't give us $1 million in Bitcoin, we're not going to let you have your stuff. And so you have to have it. It's just a necessary evil. And it's not so much it's the 14-year-old in the basement, it's governments that are doing the cyber attacks.
They're well
so it's just, yeah. And there's a whole building in China that does it. There's a whole building in North Korea that does it. So it's fascinating, not that you get attacked, but it's just fascinating that this is the way some of these countries actually make some money. Like, because with the crypto algorithms, it's the best way you can make money, right? Because you can't really trace it, so to speak.
Well, yeah.
So, I started many years ago in cybersecurity. I was fortunate to be a partner in a company that had the very first antivirus software here in Holland, and I used to go and do presentations. And the argument at the time was, why should I spend that money? Why should I spend that money? It's all make believe. Why should I? That's not going to happen to me.
Right.
And I found, being in sales, you always try and find, the right thing to say to people that they actually get it. And I said to him, well, at the end of the day, I thought, well, this is it. And have you lost me, guys, or not?
No, I hear you.
Okay. Yeah. So what I used to say to people is, well, you just have to see it really as the same as using a condom, because it's cheaper to buy the condom than it is to, have children, because that's the sort of cost you're going to have, a phenomenal amount of children with a phenomenal amount of costs. And I've been to huge Dutch banks. I've been to a rather large, which is no longer situated in Holland, petrochemical company, who said to me, well, this was 20 years ago, 25 years ago.
Did we lose him?
We lost Mr. David. He will be back. He will tell us the story of the petro company.
He'll be back because he has to play the ending credits. But
because I certainly don't know how to do that. That's so technical. But no, the cyber stuff, I've been following that. Here comes David. I find it interesting. Here, let him finish his thought. There, David, finish your thought without leaving us again.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, they're playing around with the internet here. It's being updated. Yeah, so 25 years ago, I went to this. 25 years ago, I think, slightly longer. I went to this rather large petrochemical company based as it was then in Holland. And the guy said to me, "Oh, I don't know what you're doing here." I said, "It's never going to happen here. We are the, we have the tightest security. Blah 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 blah." And I said to him, well, there's actually a virus now here in your office. And he said, no, that's not possible. It's impossible. We've got all this data security. I said, well, yeah. I said, but I just brought one into your office. He said, no, it can't be done. I said, yeah, I brought it in. And it was in those days when we had floppy disks for all those things back in dinosaur days when we had floppy disks. Yeah. And I gave him this floppy disk. I said, it's on here. So don't talk to me about, cybersecurity, everything being tight. It's like Michael said right from the beginning, it's people, which is the issue.
Yeah.
And the same thing was at the bank. And the bank said, well, what sort of danger would it do then? And I said, well, I did this huge presentation and they'd had an attack and they'd stopped counting the damage for the bank, the Dutch National Bank. They stopped counting after about 100,000 guilders then. 50,000 euro of what their in-house damage was, and because they'd been hit by some very, very simple virus. And I said, well, look, guys, just have a look at this. And I said, it's a spreadsheet. So we put this up in this big beam in this big training center in the bank, and this was a lovely little virus. And all it did was it just randomly switched the numbering in a spreadsheet. Didn't do anything else. It didn't destroy the data. I said, do you use spreadsheets in the bank? Is it important that all the numbers in the bank are correct? And and they said, to be honest, the guy said, right, as soon as you're finished, we'll have it all. Everything you got will vital. And I've made a considerable amount of money with the company and sold it to my partner. But those were the first days of cybercrime. And it was interesting, Michael, that you said right at the beginning, it's people that are the issue.
Yeah.
You know, because we'd go through it as well. I mean, those days you had to boot all your computers up yourself. We would say to people, look after your password. Yeah. Oh yeah, we do that. And we do just a random checks we get to clients. And all we do is just turn over the keyboard, and on the other side of the keyboard, you know, on a post-it or something, or, you know, sellotape DOM would be their password.
Yeah, that's a problem.
There you go. So
rest my case, about 95% of the public stupid. I'm sorry, you're helping me make my case. The other 5% somewhat smart, I guess. I don't know.
Well, the other thing is with anybody who's now using cloud services for work for your work access, like Google Docs or Microsoft Office 365, you need to not just secure your work computer, which you should definitely have separate from your personal computer.
Right.
But now that means you have to even secure any computer, like your personal computer, that you're accessing work information on. Yeah. And actually, there was a big news item recently where an entire crypto company was compromised because of the personal computer, not the work computer. And it just shows that it's all interconnected, and you have to be really careful about where you're accessing your sensitive data.
Yeah, so I mean, everybody's is concerned about governments and everything, but it's like
they already have everything. So
I was going to say the governments already have that, so like no one's really concerned about that. If you're concerned about the government knowing what's on your laptops and your phones or whatever, you're an idiot. They already do. So let's stop with this ridiculous, like Apple has security and this has no, they don't. Enough's enough. Like we deal with enough of these people. Please, let's just grow up. Worrying about a 12-year-old hacking the system's a little different.
Are the real situation.
Yeah, that's what I'm more worried about. Listen, the government knows everything anyway. And everyone's like, there's an article the other day in the Financial Times that central banks now are looking at doing digital currency. They call it digital, not crypto. They want to do digital currencies. And everybody's, a good idea? Is that a bad idea? I'm thinking, dude, use a credit card and a debit card all day long. It's the same thing. So like, who cares? And everyone's like, but they can cut you off. I don't want to be rude or anything, but they can go get a warrant and seize your assets anyway. You can still do it. This way, it's just a flick of a switch. It's easier. And I'm like, we're living in 1984, George Orwell. It just took 40 years longer to happen.
Well, with the combination, but it's also combined with Brave New World. So both of those guys had some valid points.
And it's only going to get worse.
Get the freedom and the flexibility of remote work in the lucrative tech industry. Bend your life around the world. Bendicoot is the premier course and community for thriving in a remote tech career. Join the revolution today. Bendicoot.com, official partner of the Lost Dollar Business Club.
Ooh, and that means
that's our
almost
sign.
At the end. That's right. It. We have to do the ending and we're done. Everybody who watched or listened, thank you very much. Michael's show airs every Saturday around the world. Ooh, around the world. I like that. So around the world. If you like it, subscribe. If you don't like it, we don't really care. But if you do like it and you have ideas or you want to make comments, please write your comments below and say, hey, this is what I think. You guys are wrong. You guys are right. People that think we're right, of course, will read your comments on air. The people that think we're wrong, we'll delete them. No, I'm just kidding. We'll read both. We want to know what you think. We want ideas for shows. And if you're a business person and you think you'd like to be interviewed by the three of us, good luck with that. Reach out to us. Let us know, because we're always looking to have somebody of interest or a different opinion on our show. And I think that's it, guys. I think we see everybody next week.
Very good. Oh yeah, wake up to this music.
Loving this music.
Yep.